is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
You liar!
We all know The View has set women back at least 50 years. This is one of those instances where you could just say nothing. By saying anything, you end up undermining your own credibility. So let's take a look at what The View was saying about Trump pardoning himself and his family back in 2020 versus today.
Sean Hannity suggested his next move should be pardoning himself and his family to stop the so-called witch hunt. I don't know that he even has the power to do that. What, does no one read? I mean, he can pardon other people. I don't believe he can pardon himself. I mean, wouldn't Nixon have done it if it was something you could do? Am I crazy, Sonny?
That's right.
No, you're not.
You liar!
It's interesting, though, because this is a legal question that hasn't come up. It hasn't been reviewed by, let's say, the Supreme Court or any other court, because presidents don't usually have to pardon themselves, right? And so when Nixon needed a pardon, he stepped down and he had his former vice president, of course, pardon him. And some people are saying that what Trump should do is step down even, momentarily, and then have Vice President Pence become the president.
Great hair on her, by the way.
And then pardon Trump and perhaps his entire family. I think it's really sad that we're in this position, that we are actually having to talk about whether or not the president of the United States needs a pardon. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's really...
They always say, I can't believe something like this would happen, as though it's on Trump's side, the person being prosecuted, it's their side. When they're saying, I can't believe something like this is happening, the right is also saying that. People who support Trump are saying the same thing. Yeah, I agree. I cannot believe this is happening. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I can't really do anything about it.
Wait, but if you pardon yourself, you're just saying I'm guilty, or does a pardon, is that like a get out of jail free card for anything you're eventually accused of?
So that is saying that Hunter is guilty, correct? Well, by that logic, that would be saying Hunter is guilty. It's the same as saying you don't want to speak to an officer unless you have a lawyer present, that automatically somehow you're guilty of the crime just because you don't want to speak and incriminate yourself.
As far as these pardons are concerned, right. I mean, they are coming fast and furious. We go to the list. Giuliani wants a pardon. Flynn's getting a pardon. Yeah. Manafort wants one. Rick Gates, Papadopoulos. This is how Trump, your president of the United States, is spending his time.
Did he pardon any of those people? Let me know in the comments. Which one of those on that list did Trump pardon?
Talk about P.T. Barnum, A Sucker is Born Every Minute.
The Greatest Showman is one of the best musicals of all time. How dare she besmirch P.T. Barnum? First of all, there's no evidence that he actually said that. That's just a quote that's been attributed to him. But if you look it up, completely false. Never happened.
Isn't a pardon for a specific crime? Like, Sonny, how are all these people being pardoned unless they spell out what they did? Don't you have to have a reason to pardon someone?
The president's pardon power is really extensive. I wouldn't say it's exhaustive. Like, you can't pardon someone from impeachment. But there's no question, I think, that you can issue a blanket pardon, even for crimes that, were committed, maybe perhaps could be, that haven't even been charged, that could be charged. So
yesterday, Biden had a change of heart, granting his son a full pardon on tax evasion and federal gun charges. He released a statement that, quote, says no reasonable person who looks at the facts can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out because he is my son. That is wrong, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Now, I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision.
So let me get this right. If you're unfairly targeted, but you still committed a crime, you are not guilty of that crime? Is that how this works now? I was under the assumption that a crime is still a crime regardless of why you're getting caught or why you're getting prosecuted for it.
So the question is, will people understand? Listen, I get it. I mean, we got a convicted felon as president.
Yes.
It's hard for me to...
Isn't this the same party that used the term whataboutism to defend anything that Hillary Clinton did? It was always, if we brought up something Hillary Clinton did, they would say, oh, you're just bringing up whataboutism. But now, if that statement right there is probably one of the bigger whataboutisms I've ever heard.
It is a president's prerogative. People can say, why are you doing that? But that's what presidents do every time. They do it every time they pardon somebody.
What Trump needs to do here is he needs to, first day in office, he needs to pardon Edward Snowden. And he needs to contrast that pardoning with Hunter Biden's pardon. If he doesn't take that W, it will be a huge missed opportunity.
So I'm not sure why the pearl clutching is happening now, except that that's what folks want to do. But it seems kind of foolish.
For anyone on The View to be questioning pearl clutching is comedy gold.
But maybe I'm just kooky.
So I see this one a little bit differently, and some of you know this, but I grew up with an immediate family member who was in and out of jail for addiction-related offenses when I was growing up, and now, a decade later, clean, have their life together, serve their time, are still dealing with the consequences. Inability to vote at time, paying restitution, working to get your record expunged, not being able to be eligible for certain employment. Most Americans, if they face consequences for actions that they took, they're going to have to face them, and nobody powerful and politically connected is going to come sweep in and save them. And I think, this feeds the notion to a lot of this country that there's simply a different set of rules for folks in power. And when we sit here and we say a lot...
Because there is.
Well, Donald Trump did X, Y, and Z, and how did he get elected? Because to a lot of this country, it just becomes noise. They think that if you commit crimes and somebody powerful and connected in D.C., right, left, center, Biden, Trump, you're going to be able to get away with it if you have someone on your side, and that's not how it is for everyday folks. Secondly, I take issue with lying about it. I wanted to ask him here when he came on The View, but the thought was he said so many times he wasn't going to pardon him. That, to me, is lying to the public. This is why people don't trust Washington. That's why they don't trust politicians. And I know a lot of us like Joe Biden, but I find it disappointing and bad for our institutions.
Do you think they're going to talk about the fact that this pardon exempts a whole time frame, the time frame that implicated Joe Biden in getting a bunch of money for the big guy? Are they going to talk about that at all? Because this isn't just about the form. Joe Biden is pardoning himself. Joe Biden is making it so that he can't be gone after. This whole thing is believed to be Joe Biden trying to protect his son. It's Joe Biden protecting Joe Biden.
I want to say that Charlie Kushner, the guy, Jared's dad, who was pardoned by Trump, he was convicted of witness tampering, among many other things. And Chris Christie, Republican, who prosecuted...
Okay, so if that was bad, that he pardoned them, then it's bad that Joe Biden pardoned his son. Right? By their own logic, are they saying it was okay for Trump to pardon all those people? Or are they saying Joe Biden did something bad, but also Trump did something bad? If you're trying to figure out who the superior party is, saying we're bad, but also they're bad, isn't going to get you there.
Him at the time, said it was one of the most loathsome, disgusting crimes he prosecuted in more than a decade. Look, he hired a hooker, set up his his brother-in-law with the hooker, and sent the photos to his sister to intimidate her into not testifying.
For the part of this country, half of it that doesn't support Biden, doesn't know him personally, doesn't get to have phone calls, and they're just looking at a system that seems like it only benefits the people who are in power.
I'm going to say,
what precedent does that set?
Well, here's what it sets. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood.
By that logic, if you kill somebody while drunk driving, you're somehow less guilty of a crime. He was doing drugs. He didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, well, you're drunk. You're driving. You don't have control of the vehicle. You're making bad decisions, but it's not you. It's the alcohol. No, if you hit somebody while drinking, you're in more trouble than if you hit somebody when you're completely sober.
So I think, for many, many reasons, this is very different than any other situation that we have ever dealt with. Because when we're talking about who gets a pardon and who doesn't get a pardon. This man, I think Biden had no intentions of pardoning Hunter.
But he did, and there's no difference. But you are so partisan that you can't even look at yourself in the mirror and be honest for 1 second. If you haven't checked out the merch store yet, we've got Trump-themed stickers and shirts. These are limited at a time. Doesn't make sense to sell them in January. Really cool sweaters, mugs, Christmas ornaments. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it.